Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Live with Liz. Today we are doing a review of virtual networking and where we are mid-year 2021, second year of our pandemic. But before I get into it, I have a public service announcement because I keep on running into people at law firms who have been focused on updating their websites, which this is a perfect time to do it if you haven't taken the chance while we're still kind of staying away from the business development in person and still investing in our digital worlds. This is a great time to continuously update your website, but also invest in a new website if you haven't done it in a few years or you just need an overhaul. There is, however, one small but very important thing to remember when you're doing something like this, and that is to have control over the access to your website. And a lot of these third-party developers and companies that provide websites, even to law firms, will keep access to the passwords and the login details, whether you're still with them or not. Sometimes it's kind of a CYA because they don't want to get in trouble because you need that and they're expecting you to call upon them for it. Let's see, it looks like I'm having an issue on LinkedIn. Anyway, the really important thing to remember here is to make sure that you also have access to your website. Even if you have an arrangement or a contract, these companies can close, people can leave, data can be lost, and it is absolutely crucial, as some law firms I've worked with are finding out, that you maintain access to your own data, your own website, the back end, the administration. And if you have any difficulty doing that, or you need somebody to act on your behalf or to verify that you have all of the information you need, let me know, because that is super important. Let's see if I can, is anybody out there on LinkedIn who can tell me if we're actually live? Let's see, I don't know if we are or not. This is the beauty of multicasting and streaming to various channels at once. Sometimes you have issues, and apparently I'm having them more frequently than usual. Anyway, I hope you have your coffee. Are you ready to talk about virtual networking? Good morning. Hi, Carl. Hi, Leah. Okay, so I can tell that we're on YouTube. That's good. Virtual networking and the pandemic. Yes, we are still doing this. This is the question I posed. Are we still doing this, even though most of us are pretty sick of it already? We've been doing it quite a long time, and it's starting to drag on a lot of people. And what I am noticing in a lot of Facebook groups of lawyers and law firms and networking online and WhatsApp groups and different places where people are just discussing this topic and writing about it, the burnout is real, and people are ready for this pandemic to be over and to get back to life as we knew it, or some semblance of that. Let's see. It says that it's trying to reconnect to LinkedIn. I don't know what's happening. I'm breaking the rules. It feels like, you know, how in Ghostbusters they tell you to not cross the streams. I'm crossing the virtual streams and checking the LinkedIn video, and it looks like for some reason StreamYard is not connected. It's just sending me a warning, and it says waiting for broadcast still. I guess we'll have to do it like last time and go live on LinkedIn later. I don't quite know what to do about it yet, but I will figure it out, and we'll have to do it again. We'll get this right on LinkedIn. Definitely get it right on LinkedIn eventually. It's just going to take a little more time than we thought. So a couple of the major legal conferences have indeed updated and canceled or decided to go virtual, and that includes the International Bar Association, which generally has an annual meeting. And this year's annual meeting, I was actually pretty excited about it, but I know that it's still premature to travel and that safety is of the utmost concern for all of us. And we do have people we want to meet with in parts of the world that are just not safe yet for travel. And that's just a part of life that we're all dealing with together. So in these places where it may be safe, we still have to consider the international aspect of the organizers and everything else. So Oh, they're saying from LinkedIn that it's a known issue. They're working to try and fix it, and that I should just try and end this broadcast and create a new one. But we know from experience that if we do that, it's going to require a wait time. So instead of doing that, I'm going to continue this morning with our coffee and chat on the regular Live with Liz for the people on our other channels. And we will fix LinkedIn later. Sorry, guys, on LinkedIn. StreamYard is the bearer of the bad news. Anyway, so the IBA's event in Paris was where it was scheduled in September, has actually been canceled. And they didn't even decide to go virtual, to my knowledge, yet. I could be mistaken, or something might have changed since the last time. They were already planning on some major virtual events at the IBA. And those events were planning to go on whether they had the in-person event for the international meeting or not. And they made the decision fairly early on and said, this is not safe yet. It's just not the right time to continue doing this. We will plan for next year and hope for the best. But for now, no annual meeting from the IBA at all. And it's kind of a relief not to have to think about the biggest meeting of the IBA of the year being virtual. If you're totally into the IBA and you just didn't have the brain capacity to deal with it, you don't have to. Meanwhile, in our IP world, and as many of you know, my background is IP, and we really love our IP events, especially the International Trademark Association's annual meeting, the best events out there. We love it. It has gotten huge in the recent years that they were doing it in person. These events were drawing thousands of people, in some cases over 10,000 attendees, and a beast of an event, but an incredible networking experience in person. And the feedback from the virtual events, which everyone was forced to, has been a little bit mixed. As you all know, the annual event had been planned in Houston. At some point last year, it was planned in Houston. They quickly shifted to a virtual format for last year. And this year, once again, it was scheduled for Houston, and they also shifted to a virtual hybrid format. Actually, they're doing something new. I'm intrigued by it, but I'm also still kind of considering what the possibilities are, where just in the last couple of days, you may have gotten an email from them explaining the new format where it's virtual plus. And one of the things that I have said, still believe, is that a traditional or a hybrid virtual event is really not a good idea, and not where I want to invest time or money or energy, because obviously the people who are investing in being there in person are not going to want to sit in front of a screen and engage with the people who can't be there in person. And I still believe that. I don't think it's a good investment to look at these hybrid events, say, okay, I'm going to do a hybrid event this year and it's going to work out great. No. You're not going to have the enthusiasm. You're not going to have the participation. You're not going to have the engagement. You are better off investing your time and energy in other networking opportunities, or in thought leadership, content development, social media, places where you know you can engage, rather than investing a lot of time and money in these organizations. There is a caveat. If you are invested in the organization, or you are trying to position yourself for a future with the organization in terms of leadership, committee positions, additional opportunities to meet with the people who are already in leadership of these organizations, then you absolutely want to consider participating with them and continuing to have that relationship with them, regardless of how beneficial it may be for engaging with new people or networking for business development in a regular sort of understandable way that you would if it were not the virtual environment that we were dealing with. That's when you should consider the investment. And with this Virtual Plus that INTA just announced, they're actually planning to have localized in-person events. We are starting to see localized events happening again, at least in the United States. I have seen limited local events in Europe with very strict attendance policies, COVID-19 policies still engaged, social distancing still a thing, mask wearing in certain circumstances still a thing. The big question mark in the US is how the conference organizers are going to deal with vaccination requirements and enforcing COVID-19 restrictions and rules. That is something that organizers are grappling with right now. So virtual events are, for the rest of the year, still going to be a thing. The one in-person event that I'm currently focused on, I don't know if you remember back in the beginning of the year when I spoke about the virtual events, I was thinking, oh, my first virtual event is going to be SIPI. This is the Inter-American IP Association, which is having their virtual spring meeting right now. They had an annual meeting planned for, I think it's Punta Cana. I was really looking forward to traveling to it. I think that's probably virtual at this point. I've heard a couple of people talking, but haven't seen the official announcement that maybe that's going to be some sort of hybrid event where the executive committee meets in person and other members and attendees attend virtually. And I know that a lot of places in Latin America are still struggling with COVID, so this decision makes a lot of sense in terms of safety and just where the world still is when it comes to virtual networking. So I no longer have my heart set on Punta Cana for this annual meeting. I am now focused primarily on the US because I know that these events are starting to happen in the US, and I'm hopeful and expect that the American Intellectual Property Association will still have its annual meeting later this year in October at National Harbor in the United States. They always have their annual meeting in Washington, D.C. So if you are an IP practitioner or even in a peripheral area that touches IP, like licensing or franchising, or maybe even, a law firm person, an agent somewhere, maybe this is an event for you to look at because they are still planning to have it in person. There is a chance that it will also go virtual. And that is, as unfortunate as it is that we still have to delay these things, obviously safety is still the first concern. So I am now shifting my focus to that event as my hopeful first event back in person to meet with people and have a real business development experience. Now, taking advantage of the virtual networking platforms has become easier for everybody. We are becoming more used to it. We're finding the value in it, but you don't necessarily have to try and do everything that's out there still, because what we have found is that there is a plethora of opportunity when it comes to these virtual events. There are so many of them happening. There are CLEs, there are webinars, there are speaking opportunities. If you haven't found one, you should probably be looking for one. And like I said before, when you're deciding which virtual events make sense for you to try and get a benefit out of from a business development perspective, consider those organizations that you are tied to or that you want to have a future with. Even if you haven't been with them before, this may be the opportunity for you to get into one of these organizations in a more meaningful way, because a lot of the regular membership has taken a step back. That step back opens things up for you to say, wait a second, maybe now I can position myself to get on committee. I can actually have FaceTime with chair people I might not have met before. I may be able to set up meetings based on my interest in this organization rather than reaching out and saying, oh, I want to introduce my firm to you because we have great services and we want you as a client. That's not the way. It's better to look and see what you can contribute, what value you can add, and then find that value in return for yourself as you invest in these different organizations that make sense for you. A lot of the publishers are still hosting virtual events and planning more for the end of the year. There are a lot of opportunities when it comes to having kind of that moment in the sun if you want to promote yourself, and the tie-in that you can make for these virtual events and social media is great. Now, I have participated in quite a number of these virtual events so far, and it has been mostly miss. I will say it's not even hit or miss, it's mostly miss. A lot of people are not engaged in them. Many people are not participating in setting meetings or, actually showing up when you have some of the sessions that are planned. Often cases they're pre-recorded and you don't even have the opportunity to truly engage with the speakers. You're asking questions and it's asynchronous. They're not responding in the moment that you're asking the questions. And that can be a little disappointing. It can be frustrating and it can feel like a waste of time. And that, I think, is one of the contributing factors to people just saying, I'm done. It's not worth it to do this virtual networking. But I do still find value, like I said, if you have an interest in the organization and in a couple of other aspects of it. It does give you a chance to check in. It gives you a chance to check in with other members of the organization. It gives you access to information that you might not otherwise have, to be able to have that level of communication with people who are engaged in the organization. And there are these platforms out there, and I've spoken about this before, that offer partnering opportunities. And those partnering opportunities can be valuable. So take a few minutes if you're going to participate in a virtual event and they offer some sort of partnering platform, as INTA does, to fill out your profile, make sure that it's complete, make sure that you're linking to your social media accounts, make sure that you're putting in some availability to actually meet with people and to get the most out of those partnering systems, which I believe when you're doing business development networking with these virtual events offer some of the best return on your investment and opportunities to engage with people. If you have questions about how any of these things work, about selecting organizations to participate with, if you want to know which events have gone virtual, we are still tracking. Our legal and IP event tracker is still being updated on the regular. If you don't have access to it, go to our website, www.firmforward.com, sign up for our newsletter. And if you sign up for our newsletter, we are happy to send you our tracker as just kind of a thanks for signing up with us. And we update it pretty regularly. If you ever just want an update, just shoot us an email, solutions@firmforward.com. We'll send you an updated tracker to let you know what's gone virtual, what's still happening, what cities are selected. That way you can start to plan for which ones make sense for you. And you'll have more knowledge and not have to do all the research. We did it for you. And guys, that is the update on virtual networking for the middle of 2021. Hopefully we'll see each other soon because we all need some awkward hugs. Yeah, and we'll hopefully get LinkedIn fixed really soon too. See you next week, everybody, on Live with Liz. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.